Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. And tonight's Raw was from the Talking Stick Arena in Phoenix, Arizona. And WWE has been in Phoenix for this weekend for Rumble weekend. They had NXT Takeover Phoenix held at the same arena, the Talking Stick Arena, which NXT Takeover Phoenix was a good show, but wasn't as good as the other past takeovers, in my opinion. We had the Rumble, which was at Chase Field, and we had, of course, Raw tonight, held at the same arena, and then tomorrow SmackDown is going to be held from the same arena, the Talking Stick Arena. So, but if you guys haven't checked out my previous video that I uploaded earlier today, it was the Royal Rumble review. Definitely go check it out. I thought this year's Rumble was a decent show, even though it was way too long. Even though the show was way too long, it was still a decent show to me. So if you guys haven't checked out my review, definitely give it a watch. So now on to tonight's Raw, which tonight's Raw, there were a few points that I enjoyed. Really awesome, good points that I liked. But the show as a whole, the show fucking sucked, in my opinion. But the things that I liked did not help save the show. I mean, the crowd the crowd made the show a little bit more okay-ish. But as a whole, by the booking wise, by creative wise, it was just a shitty show, in my opinion. So let's get on with the review. So the show opened up with the men's Royal Rumble winner, Seth Rollins, and he ended up coming out, and he said last week, he came out saying, 30 guys were going to lay it on the line with immortality in the Royal Rumble. He went on to say that, his heart, determination, passion, and love was for him to win the Rumble. He goes on to say that tonight, and he's like, tonight he says he's going to the main event of WrestleMania. So Seth goes on to say that it's the beginning of the journey, and he has to make a choice, either challenge Daniel Bryan or Brock Lesnar. And it's obvious who we know, who Seth was going to choose to face at WrestleMania. And a lot of people are talking about it. And so the crowd starts chanting, when he mentioned Brock Lesnar, the crowd started chanting, take his belt, take his belt. And Seth says he's going to have to take some time to think about if he wants to challenge Brock Lesnar. And so Triple H ends up coming out. The crowd started chanting NXT for Triple H, which was awesome. And Triple H ends up telling Seth that he's glad Seth lived his dream and pointed at the WrestleMania sign, because Seth ended up pointing to the WrestleMania sign, because he was like, Seth didn't want to do this, but he ended up pointing to the WrestleMania sign, as is what all superstars do after the Rumble. They always point to the WrestleMania sign. It's like a good drinking game where if one of the superstars ends up pointing to the WrestleMania sign, you just take a drink. So that actually makes for a good drinking game. So Triple H, like I said, he ends up telling Seth Rollins that he's glad he's lived his dream, that Seth lived his dream and pointed at the WrestleMania sign. He ends up saying Triple H ends up saying that he told Seth, that he challenged him because he wanted to bring back, Seth Rollins. And he ends up saying because he knows that dream. And Triple H says the Rumble is designed to test the limit for WWE, and for WWE Superstars. And he says last night, we found out who the one is. And that was, of course, Seth Rollins. So Triple H says to Seth that he has to make his decision tonight on who he wants to face. And he's given Seth till the end of the night. And Triple H announces that Daniel Bryan and Brock Lesnar are here tonight. And Seth needs to tell Triple H whose ass he's going to kick. Seth ends up saying he needs to tell Triple H whose ass he's going to kick at WrestleMania. And Seth ends up telling Triple H it's going to be one of the hardest decisions. And then Seth got interrupted by Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose ended up coming out. And Ambrose says, "Oh, this is making me sick seeing, this father and son, thing in the ring." And Ambrose says that Triple H didn't believe in Seth, and they promised, Dean and Seth promised to get together and take WWE together. And so Triple H ends up saying to Dean Ambrose, if Dean wants to bring up the the brother angle, he might want to remember how he turned his back on Seth when that was on the night Roman Reigns announced that he had leukemia. And Ambrose ends up telling Triple H that this isn't any of his business. And so Dean Ambrose ends up calling Seth a kiss ass to boot. And he ends up saying he even hopes he beats Lesnar or Daniel Bryan, because the one guy he's never been able to beat, to be without help, is Dean Ambrose. And so he asks Triple H to make a match between the two of them in the ring tonight. And so Triple H ends up starting to get out of the ring, to make his way out of the ring without an answer. And Ambrose ends up getting in Triple H's face and asks if he needs permission from his father-in-law first, which the crowd reacted to that, and the crowd was chanting, "Yes, he does. Yes, he does." And that pissed off Triple H, and Triple H ended up calling for a referee to come down. And so the match got made official with Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose. Yeah, we've seen this before with the both of them. Nothing new, same old shit. They say, "Oh, it's a new era." What new era? We're still seeing the same shit. It's a new shit. It's a new shit era. That's what I would call it. Nothing but same old shit. So we had Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. We've seen it before. It was a decent match, in my opinion. Seth Rollins ended up getting the win. End up hitting the stomp to Dean Ambrose to score the win. There you go. Seth Rollins wins. We've seen them go at it before. Overall, it was decent. Then Dean Ambrose was then sitting in the ring, and he says he's got something to say. Sorry about that, but I was saying, Dean Ambrose was sitting in the ring, and he says he's got something to say. And as he was trying to say something, Nia Jax and Tamina end up coming out. And Nia and Dean Ambrose, they're bickering, and Nia ends up hitting Ambrose from behind. And because apparently Nia Jax and Tamina were out there because they announced qualifying matches for the Women's Tag Team Championships. And so Nia Jax and Tamina were there. They took on Alexa Bliss and Mickie James. Match itself was boring in my opinion. Nia Jax and Tamina end up winning. Alexa Bliss, she hasn't competed in the ring in a few months, so we saw like a little ring rust from Alexa. And Nia Jax and Tamina win the match. Nia Jax end up hitting a double Samoan drop to Mickie and Alexa, because Nia had both Mickie and Alexa, on top, and then end up hitting the Samoan drop. So Nia Jax and Tamina end up qualifying. So, but match itself was boring ass match. And then we saw a interview with Kurt Angle that was filmed earlier today. And Kurt Angle talks about his match against Drew McIntyre. And, he says it's taken him a long time to get over that loss. When McIntyre ended up making Kurt Angle tap out from his ankle lock, from his signature ankle lock move. And so Kurt says, it's taken him a long time to get over that loss. But he ends up saying, but longer to get a match against Baron Corbin. And so Curt says that Corbin should be worried. And so then we had the match, Baron Corbin versus Kurt Angle. Before the match, Baron Corbin is on the mic, and he says, Curt is one of the greatest ever. And he brings up Curt's gold medals before saying that, Curt believes he's got one more great run left in him. And he's like, that's just not true. And when he hurts Curt, it's all going to be the fans' fault for convincing him. And so Kurt Angle ends up punching Corbin, and the match got underway. The match itself, it was boring. The match sucked in my opinion. It was a terrible, horrible match. Baron Corbin ended up getting the win. Ended up hitting the deep six on Kurt Angle. How embarrassing for Curt. They're just making Curt look like a jobber. So, and then you had after the match, Corbin ends up hitting the end of days on Kurt Angle. It was whatever. So moving on. So then we had Finn Balor end up coming out. Ends up saying last night he went up against Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar ended up beating him. And then he beat him again. Finn says he never felt speed or power like that, or even combined. And he says that he is hurt. So Finn says he is standing out with his head up high, and says last night Lesnar beat him, then beat him again, because Finn made Lesnar believe. And so Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush come out. Lio Rush gets on the mic and says to Balor that it's a disgrace that Balor got an opportunity for the Universal Championship, and that he almost beat Lesnar. And he goes on to say that Balor has no chance in hell on beating Bobby Lashley. So Leo says, Lashley is bigger, faster, and stronger than Brock Lesnar will ever be. Well, I wouldn't say that, Leo. I wouldn't end up saying that. And he ends up saying to Balor that, that the whooping Balor got last night will not compare to what Lashley can do to him. And so Balor ends up firing back and says to Lashley that Finn lasted long with Lesnar than Lashley did in the Rumble, which was like 12 seconds. And so the crowd, reacted to that. They were like, oh. And then Lashley then attacked Balor, was being down on Balor. Lashley ends up lifting up Balor, slamming him to the canvas, to the mat. End up lifting Balor twice and slamming him, into the canvas. So, segment itself, it was okay. It was meh. Then we had the Revival versus Curt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. I'm like, really? They put the Revival against Curt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. So I guess, the Edgeheads are back. If you don't remember the Edgeheads, it was Curt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. They were former tag team champions together. But this match was whatever. I did not care for this match. The Revival ended up getting the win. Ended up hitting the Shatter Machine on Curt Hawkins. Whatever. Whatever match. At least the Revival got the win. I'm like, okay, the Revival got a win. Then we had Charlie Caruso interviews Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan says he would have beaten AJ Styles last night no matter what. And he goes on to say that as for Seth Rollins, who celebrates pollution every time he talks about burning it down, which I laughed at that. He says he won't wait for WrestleMania. He'll end his hopes tonight. So that was the interview from Daniel Bryan. And then we had Elias. Of course, Elias. He was out saying he's been testing the crowd, and that the crowd let him down, and that they need to be better, and that the crowd needs to give him a standing ovation and cheering him when they hear his guitar strum. And he says the crowd are in the presence of Elias and greatness. And Elias goes on to say that, well, it's too late. So from right here, Elias is once again a heel. It's like, why did you turn him babyface to begin with? It's like, okay, so now you're turning him back into a heel. The babyface turn didn't last that long. So I don't know what these WWE creatives are doing. This is like a Big Show move right here. Like, is Elias going to be the next Big Show where they turn him from heel to babyface and then back to heel? I'm like, what the fuck? And then we had Jeff Jarrett end up coming out. That is JEFFJARRETT. WWE Hall of Famer Jeff Jarrett comes out. Says to Elias that he thinks he's going to come out tonight after cracking a guitar to him. And he says Elias has a problem. Elias has a problem with him. And so, surprise, Road Dogg comes out. Says to Elias that he doesn't want to perform for the crowd. And that Elias, doesn't want to perform for the crowd and just wants to perform for himself. And so Road Dogg ends up telling Elias to play with himself on his own time. And if you get the joke of that. And Road Dogg was like, oh yeah, we got two words for you. The whole thing. And then they end up singing, Jeff Jarrett ends up singing, my baby, is here tonight. And then we had, Road Dogg was going around. He was, singing, with the crowd. He was trying to get the crowd to sing along with him. And Elias comes and smacks his guitar into Road Dogg's back. And then we had Elias then starts, laying down punches at Jeff Jarrett, which this was in the ring. Jeff Jarrett ends up getting back up starts laying punches at Elias. And Elias was down. Jarrett goes to pick up the guitar, which the crowd was popping for. The crowd was popping for Jarrett to get the guitar and smack it at Elias, because if you remember last night at the Rumble, Elias ended up eliminating Jeff Jarrett because Elias was number 1 and Jarrett was number 2. So Jarrett ends up picking up the guitar to smash that Elias, but Elias then comes, blocks it, and then takes the guitar and hits Jarrett with the guitar. So, and that's how the segment ended. But I thought this was an enjoyable segment with Jeff Jarrett coming out and the surprise appearance from Road Dogg. It was good. It was awesome to see Road Dogg again. So yeah, I enjoyed the segment. Then we had Dana Brooke and Natalya backstage. They were getting ready for their match. They were in a qualifying match for the Women's Tag Team Championships. And Dana Brooke says she knows that she wasn't the first choice, because apparently Natalya was going to be paired with Amber Moon, but Amber Moon, for some reason, is injured. So Dana Brooke was Natalya's replacement. So Dana Brooke goes on to say that, you know, she knows she wasn't the first choice, but she's not going to let Natalya down. And so Natalya ends up telling Dana that it's about trying their hardest. And Dana says, "Oh, she's better than Natalya." And then Raw went to commercial. So just that little backstage segment with Dana Brooke and Natalya. And then when Raw came back from the commercial, we saw Mojo Rawley ends up cutting the promo. He was in a dark room, and he ends up saying how he has no one to blame but one person that, you know, he's talking to. And so he ends up putting himself over and says they think he's a nobody because of you. And you know, the you turns out to be a mirror, because he's talking to himself in the mirror. And he says, that ends now, and soon everyone will see who he really is. And I'm like, that was kind of a, after the promo was over, I'm like, that was a weird promo. Mojo was just talking to himself in the mirror. Okay. It was just random. It was random. Then we had Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan versus Natalya and Dana Brooke, qualifying match for the Women's Tag Team Championships. And the match itself, you know, it was, you know, okay. It was okay match, but you know, at least it was better than, you know, Nia Jax and Tamina versus Alexa and Mickie James. And Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan end up getting the win. It was a schoolboy pin from Liv Morgan onto Natalya. So Morgan ended up pinning Natalya. So Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan end up winning the match. But Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan move on. So all in all, decent match. Wasn't great or perfect by any means. Then we had Ronda Rousey come out. She ended up coming out. There were chants for Becky. The majority of the crowd was booing the hell out of Ronda here. And Ronda ends up saying and asks, "What's the point of dreaming if not big, ridiculous dreams?" And also, she also mentions about how last year she made her debut at the end of the first Women's Royal Rumble. And she was like, now she's our Raw Women's Champion. And the crowd was just still booing the hell out of her. She got booed. Ronda got booed badly tonight. Sorry about that, but I was saying, Ronda got booed badly by the crowd tonight. They were all chanting for Becky, and it was a very Becky type crowd in this segment. And Ronda says Sasha Banks gave her the fight of her life last night at the Rumble, and she was like, all through this, she should mention that she's getting thunderous chants for Becky Lynch. And Ronda thanks Sasha for the match, and the crowd is still booing at Ronda. And of course, she points to the WrestleMania sign, as all the superstars do, and she says she knows Becky Lynch is watching and that she's got a choice to make. And so out comes Bayley. And Bayley says to Ronda that she's not Becky, but she's Sasha's tag team partner. One half of the Boston Hug connection. And she's like, since Ronda looks like she's out here for a fight, Bayley ends up telling Ronda, why not put the Raw Women's Championship on the line? And so then we got the match. We had Ronda Rousey versus Bayley for the Raw Women's Championship. Another superstar that they throw to Ronda, that gets fed to Ronda. Being a huge Bayley fan, it's hard being a Bayley fan with all the losses that WWE has given her. So, but the match itself, it was okay. But Ronda ended up getting the win. Ended up blocking the armbar on Bayley. So Ronda still retains the Raw Women's Championship. We all knew it was predictable. Why would they do this? Why would they book a match? Sorry about that. But I was saying, why would they book this match when we all knew Ronda's going to retain anyway? Ronda's probably not dropping the title, like I said, until WrestleMania. That's my prediction. The WWE is going to make Ronda possibly drop the title at WrestleMania, and put the Raw Women's Championship on Becky. Because, and I say that because after the match, both Bayley and Ronda, they end up shaking hands to show respect to each other. And Becky Lynch's music hits. And she ends up coming out saying, "The man is back on Raw." And she says to Ronda that she would find a way back to her again. Becky says the last time she was on Raw, she dropped Ronda in the ring. And that after that, Ronda never looked for her. And she says she's here to prove that Ronda is not the baddest woman on the planet. Becky says she won the Rumble match, and unlike Seth Rollins, she doesn't have much time to think about it. She ends up choosing Ronda, so now it's going to be Becky Lynch versus Ronda for the Raw Women's Championship at WrestleMania. And she ends up saying that at WrestleMania, that Mania is going to break. At WrestleMania, she was going to break Ronda's fatigue and kick her ass in front of the world. And so Ronda ends up getting on the mic, and she ends up telling Becky she wants the world to hear she wants the world to hear this. And when Becky came out, I forgot to say, when Becky came out, huge pop from the crowd. Fans were holding up man signs, as what we saw last night at the Rumble in Becky's match against Asuka, where they were holding up the man signs, showing good love to Becky. And also for Bayley, when Ronda had the match with Bayley tonight, the crowd was chanting, that hey Bayley, and they were holding up hugger signs, hugger section signs, some of them. But back to this. Ronda says she wants the world to hear this, and she says to Becky, how is your leg? Because Becky's leg was in a brace, and Ronda's like, she wants Becky to look her in the eye, and now she not only wants to beat Becky, but bring out the best of her. And Ronda says everyone knows she could re-break Becky's face faster than you could say Nia Jax. So Ronda ends up taking a jab to Becky, as remember when Nia Jax ended up busting up Becky's face. And Ronda says to Becky that they are the same age, and that when Becky was training, Ronda was main eventing in UFC, and has become a household name. Also became a household name for a decade. And she ends up saying to Becky that Becky has to learn that any ring she steps into is her own, and she's going to own Becky at WrestleMania. And that's how the segment ended. But Ronda here, cutting this, in this segment, talking to Becky, it was really awesome. This is the Ronda that we should see. This is the Ronda Rousey that we should see. That attitude persona for Ronda. I thought this was an enjoyable segment between Becky and Ronda. Just amazing. And Ronda going out like that, going out on the mic like that, really like that. We should see more of that Ronda Rousey on the mic. So yeah, really enjoyed the segment with Becky and Ronda. Then we saw Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman backstage. Strowman ends up telling Seth that he earned it last night, and they both end up shaking hands. And Strowman ends up telling Seth to make the right choice and make it count at WrestleMania. So that was that. Then we have Braun Strowman versus Drew McIntyre, another match that we have seen before. Match itself, more can I say? We have seen it before. It's been done a lot of times with them. Braun Strowman got the win by disqualification because Baron Corbin ended up coming out, ended up taking down Braun Strowman. Corbin then ended up getting a chair, hits it at Strowman. Corbin goes to hit Strowman again with the chair. Strowman actually ends up hitting the chair, ends up taking out Corbin. He drives Corbin into the steps, rams down on McIntyre, rams down McIntyre into the barricade. Then he also rams down Corbin, ends up charging, running and charging at the both of them. And so Strowman ends up grabbing Corbin, ends up taking him over to the steps. Strowman bounces Corbin's head off of the steps. And so we had McIntyre comes in, ends up hitting a Claymore kick to Strowman on the outside. And right from there, McIntyre and Corbin end up picking up Strowman, and they end up choke slamming Strowman on the steps. And that's how what happened after the match. But like I said, the match itself, it was in the disqualification, and we saw Strowman and McIntyre go at it. Then we had Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman come out. Paul Heyman says that it's easy to make choices when you don't have options, and that he has only one option, and that is for Seth Rollins to go and challenge Daniel Bryan. And he says it takes a special kind of being to weather the Beast's assault, especially at WrestleMania for the Universal Championship. And so Seth Rollins ends up coming out, and he ends up punching Lesnar. He ends up kicking Lesnar to the gut, and Seth goes off the ropes, and he was trying to hit the stomp on Lesnar. Lesnar ends up catching Seth, ends up hitting an F5 to Seth. Sorry about that again, but I was saying Seth was going for the curb stomp, for the stomp to Lesnar, and when he went for the stomp, Lesnar ended up reversing it, ended up catching Seth, gives Seth an F5, and Lesnar does a fireman's carry, does another F5. This is the second F5, and he ends up hitting the third F5 to Seth, and also ends up hitting the fourth F5. So Lesnar ends up sitting the Universal title, the Universal Championship, in the center of the ring. And he ends up picking up Seth again, F5 to Seth onto the Universal title. And so Seth ends up drawing back, himself up, trying to get himself up, and he ends up calling out to Lesnar. He's like, "Oh, come on, Lesnar, is that all you got?" And I'm like, why does Seth have to say that? Why'd you say that, Seth, to Lesnar? Because you know what Lesnar's gonna do. And Lesnar ends up hitting one more F5 to Seth. And that's pretty much how Raw ended tonight. But I thought the ending was lame. It was just Lesnar giving Seth 6 F5s. 6 F5s to end Raw. What a lame way to end the show tonight with that. It was lame. So yeah, so that was your Monday Night Raw tonight. So yeah. Anyways, that's it for this review. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Thank you all for watching, and definitely give this video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all back here tomorrow night for a SmackDown review. SmackDown, I hope, will be an interesting show tomorrow night. Hopefully it will be a decent show. But like I said, if you guys haven't checked out the previous video that I uploaded earlier today, the Royal Rumble review, if you didn't check it out, and go watch it. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you all tomorrow night for the SmackDown review.